I sat with a lady, very passionate, patriotic South African, Mandisa Mashego. She used to be in politics. She's now a political activist. And the question I asked her was, can black people govern? You know, we look at the failures of the ANC government since 1994. We look at some of the failures of other African governments who got liberation, were given.
Yeah.
Because apparently you need to be given freedom.
Absolutely.
Back then. And the seeming failures, not necessarily on a European standard, but just the people don't look happy. The people don't look at peace. They don't seem to have a strong sense of identity. They still claim to want to assimilate to Europeanism, and that's how we measure wealth and happiness. And can black people govern? We didn't expand on it. And she said, look, I'm not going to expand on it. We'll do it on another platform. But she said, if you want to figure out if black people can govern, go back to the black home.
Sure.
Can the black person govern his home?
Right.
Once you can answer that question, you'll answer everything else.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm raising this because I know this is a huge topic for you. Where are we getting it wrong from a family perspective, which then probably also then moves on to society, community, political, business leadership?
I think there's at least three factors. It's how history has treated us and what we have experienced over the years, meaning the breaking of the African family with the tax systems, with the poll system, poll tax, making
what tax?
The poll tax.
Poll.
Yeah, the hut and the poll tax, the taxes that.
Please explain those briefly.
In South African history, white people made it mandatory for people to have to pay tax for where they lived, and also to contribute to an economy in ways that was not taken from their own produce. Like if they produce potatoes, they could not pay, in that way. They had to pay taxes through European money. And that could only be done through working at a mine or working at a European home or a business.
Farm, a factory.
That's right. Sure. And this led to most African men in this country having to spend most of the year outside of the family home, away from his wife, away from his children, and also becoming a quite estranged member of the family, being disrespected in the mine or wherever he was working, and not really feeling so comfortable anymore maybe at home. Because I'm trying to envision this in my mind, being treated as an absolute nothing, as a small boy, being called names by the people that I need to work for so that I can go home and say, here's some money we can now buy.
They called us a boy.
Exactly. And as I'm coming in the door, these children haven't seen me in a year. And in my mind, they're going to flock towards me and embrace me. But when I open the door, they run away.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to touch my wife, because she's also a bit like, because I'm coming with my roughness, I'm coming with my anger, she also doesn't seem to really be that happy that I'm home and we don't know what to talk about. And we're sitting there and it's just I'm actually would be more comfortable if I can just leave tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to stay that week.
Go back to what I'm used to.
Exactly.
Go to the tavern. Listen to you
understand? Exactly.
And
yeah. And that story for me illustrates very strongly how the family was broken in a place where we no longer expect men to play a role, and maybe we as men also have found ourselves struggling so much. So the history, but also what we emulate towards, because even I do a lot of work with African men, and I've learned a lot about myself, but I also learned a lot about us as African men, that our ideals are often shaped by those we are oppressed by, because they seem to hold a certain sense of power. So African leadership very much is leaning towards European ways of leading. And African ways of leading and African values in that space seems weak and they don't work within the Eurocentric business spaces.
Yeah.
Because, so I think we are confused. So history has marked it in a particular way. The what we emulate towards sets us up. And then I think many of us do not have an experience. I'm thinking back, I have a few experiences of being in an absolutely African-centered, African-led space. One is Suriname, which is a country on top of Brazil. It's kind of part of the Caribbean, but it's part of the subcontinent of South.
Suriname. It's surname with an I somewhere in the middle.
Suriname. Yeah. It's
South
a Dutch
America.
colony. And there are the people who set themselves free. People say they run away. They set themselves free. We call them what? Maroons.
Close to Guyana.
That's right.
In the state
Guyana,
of Amapa.
Yes.
There's a whole place that I don't know. Sorry.
There's a whole group of people who freed themselves immediately when they were enslaved and put there to work for white people, and they have retained their culture, they've retained their language. There are certain languages that are alive there that are lost in Ghana, where they actually come from. And in that space, there's a sense of, and it's not that it's unchallenged or everything is beautiful and happy, but there's a sense of order. There's a sense of people knowing where they belong, what they're supposed to do. And when you have grievances, when there's things you don't like, and things that you think is a problem that is being ignored, there's a way of how that is being addressed effectively. And the way I'm looking at, and even societies that I visit here in South Africa who may have lost certain ingredients of that, that's where I see most of us come from. A sense of order, not a sense of, even when you think of leadership, a lot of our ancient leadership was not just Penuel is the king because everybody likes him. Penuel is the king because it has been decided that it is in his lineage and in his calling that he must be, but he's going to be held accountable. There's going to be a council around him. There's going to be mothers nurturing his softer and more human principle. There's going to be warriors taking care of his warrior tactics and things like that, but he's going to be held accountable. And when he's no longer staying within the framework of what the power that has been given to him is, he's going to be taken out. He cannot just be the king because that's what we do. And we do that a lot now. We say, but he's in charge, he's got the money.
Full stop.
That's it.
No accountability.
You understand?
No putting people aside that are actually going to...
So that's a long way to say, yes, I believe that we can and must, but I think we lead and organize. But I think we are too consumed by the leadership role. I think many of us want to be leaders. It sounds so nice. Everybody's listening to my voice. Everybody's bowing down. Yeah, BUNTU, you are great. And that feels very nice to a fractured ego that maybe hasn't even lived for many generations, because I've been that boy, I've been that slave, and I would like to be admired. It would be nice to hear that I'm actually on point and that I'm delivering. But am I ready? And I think many of us are not. And it's going to take a couple of generations for us. And I think that's why I'm part of a family collective as well, where several of us realize that we want a difference for our children. We want to demonstrate a different understanding of who they are and how they should interact with this world in a place that we have some power over. Yes, they're going to be out in schools. Yes, they're going to listen to radio stations. Yes, they're going to learn about Rihanna. They're going to do all these things. But they're also going to learn that Black people are incredible. They're also going to learn that African culture works. They're also going to learn that African spirituality is not something we do just because we did it 1,000 years ago. It's something that informs our journey right now. And I believe that sets us on a path towards change. And I'm very aware of this. Most of the changes I work for, I will not see in my lifetime. But that's okay, because I'm coming from Gavi. I'm coming from Chris Hani. I'm coming from Frantz Fanon. And they didn't complete. They didn't follow this liberation to its conclusion. But they made a difference. I have a stronger place to stand because of them. Let me do something that at least and I'm not trying to liken myself to big giants, but I can do something. And I should do it well.